Namaste, Missoula. Mandela here, your host of The Trail Less Traveled. I invite you to join me for an interview this week with Sam and Elise Risho, the owners of the Silk Road Catering and Spice.
Hello, Missoula. This is Sam Risho here. I'm with my wife, Elise Risho, and we are going to tell you a little bit about my family growing up here in Missoula and a little bit about our restaurant, our catering operation, our spices, our kids, our family, our adventure, and we're looking forward to sitting down with Mandela and getting into it. So hopefully you can join us.
Welcome to The Trail Less Traveled, an adventure radio series and podcast dedicated to collecting stories and sounds from around the world in order to take you back to mankind's earliest form of entertainment, storytelling. Missoula, Montana is a mecca for outdoor enthusiasts, and each week we will bring you tales of adventure from both near and far, as well as information and inspiration and a few tunes to set the mood. You can subscribe to the podcast and learn about our international outreach projects at traillesstraveled.net. And now, here's your host, international expedition guide, conservationist, and yogi, Mandela.
I am sitting with Sam and Elise Risho. They are caterers and adventurers, and they started Silk Road Catering and Spice in 2009. And today I'm just excited to sit down with them and talk to them about their life of adventure and also their connection to Missoula, Montana. I want to first start by thanking you for sharing tea with me at your table in your home today.
Oh, you're so welcome to be here.
Yeah, we're so great to see you again and looking forward to talking with you here.
My first question for you, just to go ahead and dive right in, is where did you grow up and how was adventure and food a part of your childhood?
I actually grew up here in Missoula. My parents came here quite a while ago. I was raised as a restaurant kid here in town, but my family came from the East Coast. And so we would constantly travel back and forth via car, driving back and forth across the country. I probably made the trip when in my younger years, maybe 7 or 8 times driving across the country. And so we would always stop if there was a swimming hole, whether it be a pool or a river or a lake, we would stop and jump in. There's, seeing all the national treasures all along the way was always important for the family. And so just getting out there and exploring, we started at a very early age. And so being here in Missoula, growing up here, it's, we have the mountains right at our fingertips. There's no end to the amount of fun we can have here. So my mother, Susie Risho, she has been an amazing part of this community. And so I feel like she taught all of us kids patience and imagination and creativity. She's been an artist her whole life, working in every single medium out there. And where my father was creative in the kitchen, she was creative with her hands. And whether it was sewing or her ceramics, like this vessel right here is one of her pieces, whether she was painting, teaching, she taught all of us kids how to be creative in everything that we do.
She taught this community.
The community, yeah.
It's been in every school. One of the cutest things that we've experienced recently is having Chelsea Bodnar, who is the president of the university's wife, come to Susie and say, "Do you remember when you taught me preschool?" Like a part of this community, right? Everything that she has given is so full of love and life. And it encapsulates what Missoula is about, is just sharing your experience and love.
Elise?
I grew up in the opposite of adventure and travel. My mother was very much a hermit and ended up keeping me close and very sheltered for all of my life until I met that guy. And then it was the exact opposite. I was an only child and my mother was a single parent, and I was very closed and quiet and shy and not participatory in any way. And then I married him and came into this amazing family who has this legend in Missoula of hospitality and culinary expertise. And it's really hard not to walk down the streets of Missoula and run into so many different people and I don't even remember how to recognize people because there's just everybody is here and part of this family, and it's really sweet. So being able to experience adventure is kind of anxiety filled for me because it's not a part of my upbringing, but it's so, what I call it, not boring. Completely opposite of what I was taught, and it's fun to share it with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 3 kids. So 15, 13, and 9. And they take part in every adventure we do. We try to make sure that all of the fun we have includes the family.
Mm-hmm. Elise, I'm going to ask you if you might prompt Sam about his family and their early connections in Missoula.
Why did your parents come here?
My parents originally came here for the school, and then they found the church, and it's why they wanted to stay. And so there was a combination of both things. The church community that they were part of was the Community Covenant Church. It's not around anymore, but a lot of the members of that church are still here in the valley today. And it's exactly what it was the community. I remember when I was in high school, there would be days that there would be me and my 2 brothers, and we would have our friends, and my parents would have their friends. And there would be so many people just on a regular day that would come to this house. Because I grew up in this house that we're sitting in here. I think I was about 10 when we moved into this house. And we had a neighbor across the street. She sat in one of the upstairs apartment balconies over there. And it was just a Wednesday, and she just decided she was going to sit there and read her book and count how many different people came in and out of our house just on a Wednesday, just on a regular day. And there were 44 different people came to our house between all of our friends. And that was just the community that I grew up in and my brothers grew up in. And my family's had 4 different restaurants in this town over the last 50 years. And so just hospitality is in our blood, you know.
And he's created that atmosphere even today with our kids. All of the soccer players come to our house right after school before the whole shuttling here and there and everywhere, and bike riders and walkers and everything. It's still
a busy property.
All of a sudden the table's full of snacks 5 minutes before they walk in the door, and they just find it to be home, and that's where you get to be.
Elise, I'm just wondering about your first visit to Missoula.
My dearest friend fell in love with Sam's butter air. And she kept saying, we got to go to Montana. I was living in New Mexico at the time with her. And we got to go to Montana. We got to go to Montana. And so I'm like, I don't have any need to go to Montana. She's like, it's going to be fine. And I need you to come with me. This is what we're going to do. And we get here and it was full of smoke. I mean, my first experience was completely covered in not being able to see the mountains, driving through the valleys. We drove up to Flathead, and it was this overwhelming, this is what it's like here all the time, apparently. That is a lot of what it's like here all the time. But the welcome that I received from Sam and Abe and the whole family was just like, wow, you just become a part of the group and you just part of everything that happens just naturally. It's really, really sweet. I ended up moving here later that year and only experiencing welcome every step of the way. And it's mostly because of the community that this family has participated in for the last 50 years. It's super sweet to be able to be here and have people just know you on the street. It's lovely.
Wow. I'd like to dive into some of the adventures that you all had. BK, which I love.
Before kids.
Before kids. I'm going to have to use that moving forward. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the adventures that you all went on before kids.
Well, some of the fun travels we did were because of work. We spent 2 years living down in Boise, and Elise was working for a telecommunications company. And that took us to a few interesting and fun places. We traveled to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and we traveled to Panama City, and a fun trip to Mexico. Those were fun. We went to East Asia. We got to explore Taiwan with my brother Effie and his wife's family, yeah. And we went to Hong Kong and Shanghai. Some wonderful experiences in those locations. And we went Caribbean for our honeymoon. That was fun. We spent some time in Barbados.
You have to tell a story about being in Shanghai.
Oh.
And what our preparation for New Year's Eve.
Which Tell me what you're thinking about.
So our hosts, who was Sam's brother Effie, so he's brother number 2, his college roommate is
Ivan Ting. Yeah.
a businessman in Hong Kong. And the first part of our trip was spending a week in Taiwan with Effie's wife's family, which was out of this world, amazing. But then we flew over to Hong Kong and then immediately flew up to Shanghai, where Ivan's family has a house in downtown Shanghai, believe it or not, in this big piece of property in the French district there. And they say to us, oh, by the way, we are going to host you to this special New Year's Eve party when we get back to Hong Kong.
Right.
So he's a very substantial businessman, and his wife is a supermodel. And they are going to take us to this holiday party. And they said, but you need to have the right clothing for that. So we're going to take you to the tailor that we go to here in Shanghai.
And we're going to get you fitted in some traditional Chinese clothes for this party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a really amazing experience. Walking into this store, it probably wasn't any bigger than our dining room and kitchen together. It was pretty tiny, but completely covered in fabric from all over the world, silks and satins and all of these amazing colors and textures and stuff. I've never been fitted for a dress before, and like the funniest part was the measurement between here and here, right? It was just so lovely. And then Sam comes in, and
How old is this guy? And he's been sewing his entire life. That's what he's done, is he's worked at this shop. His father owned it before him. And he would take my measurements, and he didn't speak any English. And then he would call out my measurements to his wife, who was writing all the numbers down. And she would argue with him with every number that he gave, as if she didn't believe the size that he was like measuring of me. And so after the whole thing, and they argued after every single number that he called out, I asked Angie, I'm like, ask him if he's ever measured anyone my size before. And he goes, oh, yes, it was Jackie Chan's father, but he was really big here in the stomach.
not really tall, but very big windowy.
Wow. So many wonderful memories coming back. You guys did all these adventures before you had your kids.
That's right.
But I'm sure you were collecting memories and ideas along the way for this company that you established in 2009.
Yeah, so we originally opened the restaurant, and my father, he taught my brother and I how to cook food from all over the world. And so the concept we had with the restaurant, the Silk Road, is we served food from all over the world. And it was tapas-style, so you'd come in and eat little plates. You could come in with 4 people and try 16 dishes from 16 different countries. And that was a lot of fun. And it wasn't that we just served food from the historic Silk Road, but that's a lot of our favorite history and food comes from, and the culture. My father's parents immigrated from Damascus back in the early 1900s. And so we kind of had ties to the Middle East back then too. So we just kind of use the Silk Road as a metaphor to give you the idea that you're going to be taking an exotic travel with your palate. And we had a lot of fun with food back in the day. And then after we closed the restaurant down, we still continued the catering operation. So we still do that to this day. I think we catered over 120 weddings this last summer, all over Montana.
The last 4.5 months.
Yeah. It's so wonderful because we get to go to these amazing places to celebrate with these people all over Montana, all over Western Montana. And we'll cater weddings up in Glacier and down in Darby. And it's always in the shadow of a beautiful mountain or on the riverside or in this incredible meadow. We get out with our business a lot, and just bringing amazing food to these locations is just super, super fun.
My mouth is watering thinking about the beautiful green beans that you serve. What were they called? The Sichuan green beans?
Sichuan green beans, yeah.
This morning. At that point, we didn't have anything vegan on our menu. And
It was an evolution. Last year, we catered a wedding for 150 people, and the entire menu was gluten-free and vegan.
I want to talk to you about the namesake for your business, the Silk Road Catering and Spice. So for someone listening who doesn't know about the Silk Road and that route that was used for trade, can we talk a little bit about that and why it inspired you so much?
Absolutely. So the Silk Road were the historic trade routes that went all the way from China to the Mediterranean Sea. And originally it was just land travel. It'd be caravans moving back and forth. It was kind of a perilous journey back in the early days. There could be raiders and whatnot along the trails. As time went on and sea travel took on a little bit more, then they could go around India and, by sea trade and move up through the area. A lot of the spices that came from that area where you had over in India were very valuable over in the Mediterranean area. Because of the trade routes, you had all of this amazing flavor that would come through. And that spice trade is really what kind of inspired the business. We actually handcraft some of our own spice blends. We make 10 different spice blends, and it starts in Japan. And we have one from China and India. We have a Persian spice blend. We have Turkish and Lebanese. We have Ethiopian and Egyptian. We have a North African and Moroccan. And they're just beautiful. And when you cook with these spices, the flavors are just so aromatic and beautiful that it just takes you to that area of the world when you're cooking with them too. It's really, really fun.
I love it. And I think that we would be amiss if we didn't talk about cooking and the subtleties of cooking and honoring the lineage of culinary expertise in all of these different locations.
The interesting thing is some of these spice blends that we use, these Japanese ones and these spices that we use from Morocco and Ethiopia, they were actually inspired from travelers around the world that would stay in this house, people that would live in this house, and they would bring the food with them from their family's home. And then they would teach my dad, Ray Risho, how to make these spices and how to cook with them. So we recreated. For example, the Ethiopian bebedi or bebeda is a hot chili spice blend from the country of Ethiopia. And it is so exotic and the flavors are just so intense.
Was it that taught your dad about this?
A gentleman named Sigi and Almaz, and they now live in Reno. What were you thinking?
Oh, the story that they were in the kitchen here and working with your dad.
Yeah, exactly. And they told him all the different components that went into it. And so when we had Perugia restaurant, my father would often make these spices for some of the recipes that we had there. And then he put them in little bags, and on a piece of masking tape, he would handwrite all the ingredients and he would give them out as little gifts for people. And when we opened the Silk Road restaurant, me and my wife Elise and my brother Abraham, we decided that we wanted to kind of take that to the next level. And so that's when we started putting them in actual little tins. And the tins have gone through many evolutions, but now they're on store shelves all over. And it's so fun to see what my father had started back in the day, taken to this next level.
Well, their father, Ray, he's a cultural anthropologist. And so what he focuses on is how cooking is shared, the different techniques and the different flavors of food are shared between cultures, and how to recreate those different flavors. And that's what these kids grew up with, is experiencing all of the different cultures that Ray was studying at the time and learning how to appreciate the really intense flavors sometimes, or the very subtle flavors sometimes, of all of these different cultures. And so what ended up happening is they, just in their home, and Ray being a part of this community, he would welcome dignitaries that would come in that would be visiting the university, and he would cook a meal that was native to the person that they were hosting at the time, right? He would study up on it and learn about all the different techniques. And you go into his office, and instead of textbooks and stuff, the entire office was cookbooks.
1,000 of them.
1,000 of them. Different ways to have different types of cuisine and the different techniques and how to cook. And that's how he inspired not just himself and the people that he was cooking for, but also welcoming them with hospitality and say, hey, I honor you so much by learning about you and your culture before you even come here. So he prepared their meal.
He'd have dignitaries from South Korea here, and so he'd cook a South Korean dinner, all right, and serve it right here at this table.
And he continues to do that.
Elise, what of those regions calls to you? What spices does your body see as medicine?
You know, that is a really remarkable question, mostly because I'll be 100% honest here and say none of them do, because they're not part of anything that I grew up with. So Sam and Abe, they had it every day in their home, and they learned to appreciate all of those different flavors. And that was not at all my upbringing. And so I've had to teach myself, or they had to teach me, how to really appreciate the complexity of the flavors and to want to use them and to be a part of them. And so having spices be a part of my world is also a challenge with my kids too, because a lot of times for kids, the flavors are too intense if you're putting too many spices.
Yeah.
Too much.
Our 3 kids all still crave pretty simple flavors, but they'll grow into it.
Of course, they have friends here and there that really like to enjoy some things that have more complexity to it, but our kids are like, they've had so many different really intense flavors that Ray would cook or that Sam would cook. They're like, I can't handle this. And of course, our dogs are playing in the background. How cute is that? So overall, I think my favorite one is the one that has the least amount of cumin in it.
Okay.
And that would be Japanese togarashi, because it's really versatile. You can put it in soup, or you can sprinkle it on the tacos, or make a steak with it, or whatever it is that really inspires your tastes.
Sam, over to you. Is that a fair question to ask? Do you have a favorite region for culinary arts?
Absolutely. My family's heritage comes a lot from the Middle East. And so it's those flavors that really, I just love the most. And everywhere from our Moroccan to our Ethiopian to our Persian, like the flavors that come from those areas and the combinations, not exactly a curry, but it's like that kind of combination when you have a lot of different spices that get put into a package together, and not necessarily a package, but put into a recipe together. Those just really sing to me. I just love them the most. It takes me back. It takes me back.
Is someone out there listening who loves cooking, maybe they watch cooking shows or read cooking books, but they find it hard to take that first step into actually cooking for themselves at home? Do you have any advice?
Right. So if you can find a good quality spice blend, and that's one of the things that we've tried to do is perfect those things. You don't want old dry spices. You wouldn't, make a cup of coffee out of coffee beans that had staled on the shelf. So you want to have some fresh spices in what you're cooking, but you can almost use, whether you want to make a vegetable dish or you want to fillet a side of salmon or you're going to do elk steaks, whatever it is, depending on what culture you are in the world, you're going to want to start with your cooking mediums. And it might be that you're using olive oil, or you could be using sesame oil, depending on where you're cooking from. Maybe you're cooking with a ghee, which would be like a clarified butter, a seasoned clarified butter. You're going to want to start with your base, add salt to your taste, and rub in the spice that you're going to be cooking with. And we're just talking really simple. Add some sort of sour component, citrus perhaps. It could be lemon or lime or rice vinegar or something from the culture that you're cooking with. And let it rest for maybe 30 minutes before you start to cook it. Put it on the grill, cook it in the oven, and just see what those flavors do for what you're cooking with. And you can do this with just about any of our spice blends, and it'll just elevate your cooking and take it up to this next level. And, so that's so simple, right? You have your base, you have your cooking medium, you have a little bit of salt and a little bit of sour. You want to have all those flavor components all present in the dish that you're cooking with. Add that spice blend and rub it in. Maybe use 1 tablespoon per pound of meat you're cooking with or vegetables, and you're going to love it. It's, you're going to be blown away at how good it is and how simple it was to make.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit more about simplicity and keeping it local. Part of the heart of our conversation today is Missoula. And I'm constantly encouraging people as our city continues to change to shop local. And I'm talking right now about those vegetables that you source or that elk that is maybe a part of your meal.
Yeah.
Where do you get your ingredients?
Well, farm to table is absolutely the best. With our business, we try to use local, organic whenever we can. If it's in the price point for us to be able to do that, it's always the target. We use the local distributors to get our food to us. And, we have things in Missoula that cities around try to mimic, like our farmers markets are just absolutely incredible. And if you haven't had a chance to visit Missoula farmers markets on a Saturday morning, it's worth the visit just because you have so many local vendors and growers that are out there, and you can fill an entire backpack or bag in moments with the best looking fresh vegetables that you've ever seen. It's just incredible.
I would say definitely the farmer's market is always a way to go, but we also have this fantastic store here that just provides all of the wonderful things that have been grown in Montana. We love the good food store. We love butterfly herbs. We love the ability to shop local with stores that focus on local also. That's a unique part of Missoula that I think not everybody gets. And having the ability to pull produce from the entire state, because we live in a very cloudy area right here, but having some wonderful stores that first focus on sustainability and also local ingredients is super special to us.
We're sitting in the home of Elise and Sam Risho. They are the owners of the Silk Road Catering and Spice, and that has been around since 2009. But the Risho family has been in this community for over 50 years. That's what we're talking about today, community. We're talking about the community in Missoula, Montana. And so, Sam, I'll start with you, talking a little bit about what you think of when you think of the community in Missoula.
Well, that's my favorite thing about this town. You know, the fact that you can go downtown Missoula and within 10 steps, you're going to run into someone else you know. And I love that part of it. It was probably my favorite thing about having the restaurant on the Hip Strip, the Silk Road restaurant, was just the connection to the community and seeing the people coming in and going by every day. I mean, that probably, when we had the restaurant, that was the busiest foot traffic block in Missoula. And so we got to see everybody, you know, at least once. And that was really wonderful. And our house here has a community on its own level, a little bit smaller than that. But yeah, that's one of the reasons we live in Missoula and we stay here.
Mm-hmm. Elise, what do you think about when you think about the community here in Missoula, Montana?
It's unique. It's so unique in the sense that this community supports each other, both in diversity and inclusivity, but also just in friendship and being able to share time and space with each other, which, I mean, I grew up in Denver. I didn't know anything about having a community in such a large city as compared to here, where people smile at each other when you walk by on the street. Even though you don't know each other, you still smile at each other.
Yeah, if someone walks by on the Higgins Street Bridge, or now the Bear Tracks Bridge, and they don't look at you, you know they're from out of town. Right? You know, like, because people in Missoula, they meet you in the eye, you know?
Always.
For each of you, what's your favorite thing about Missoula?
I think it's the mountains. When we were kids growing up, that was our playground. You know, I have no idea how many times I crested Mount Sentinel as a kid, you know, just because we'd hang out on the mountain. And, you know, you got these beautiful mountains all around us in every single direction. And, you know, our family has hiked to the top of, I think, just about every single one of them. And Chapachan Peak is one of our favorite memories, being up on the top of that one right there. You know, on a clear day, you can see all the way to Glacier. But that was, you know, the rivers and the mountains, that was our playground when we were kids.
Impressed that you've made it to the top of Chapachan, because I've only made it up there once. I'm always distracted by huckleberries.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was actually a motivating factor because we brought all of our kids and the cousins and stuff. And so walking through the huckleberry patches, you bite one and you take a step, and you bite one and you take a step, and you pick one and you take another step. And so
it definitely made the journey a little bit longer.
I would guess each of them consumed at least a half a gallon on the way there.
It really kind of showed the difference between our kids too, because our oldest son, Weber, he's very destination bound. Like, he could have made it up to the top of that thing, you know, in lightning flash speed. But our middle son, Mason, he needs to look under every rock and check out every mushroom and find the cool flowers, you know, the entire step along the way. So it's definitely finding balance with our kids on a hike is always interesting.
And then the boulder field at the top.
Oh yeah, the last quarter mile, half mile.
Raina, at 4 years old, climbed that entire boulder field on her own.
Yes, there was a bit of boosting.
There was some. Yeah. Yeah.
Elise, do you have a favorite thing that pops to mind for Missoula?
Oh, it's hard to say because they're all favorites. I love the ability to hike within 15 minutes of my home. And there's two places that I find super special, mostly because
Dogs.
We have one of them is dogs, so we take them over to Blue Mountain quite a bit. And this time of year is super unique because it just feels like fields of gold. All of the grasses have turned to the same color as these trees here. And you just walk through in the afternoon. The afternoon is a specific time because then the sun is hitting it right at this beautiful angle. And it feels like, there was a movie, what was it, like Gladiator, when he's like walking through the Elysium, right? You know, it's like, just like makes my heart so happy. There's that. And then there's also just hiking to the M. And what that does is it gives me this unique view of the entirety of the Missoula Valley. And I get to see all the different little storm pockets happening on Blue Mountain or down the Bitterroot or up valley. You just have this wholesome feeling of awareness of all of nature and the specialness that we get to have here in Missoula.
I'm so grateful that we are here in your home, appreciating the light as it comes to the leaves in your living room. And I'm going to prompt you with the next question. I don't think I've actually asked anybody this ever. But you know how you see those stickers that say, keep Missoula weird? So how would you say if someone said, hey, Elise, what do you do to keep Missoula weird? Or like, how can we keep Missoula weird? How would you respond to that?
Oh my gosh, that's such a funny question. As soon as you say that, I think of the other bumper sticker that says, keep Missoula beard.
Oh, yeah.
There's that too. Oh gosh, I don't know. How to keep...
What was the question?
How would we keep Missoula weird if we...
It's just keeping the diversity. You know, there's so many different people, and the fact that they all live here in this community and they're all welcome in this community. Like, that's what kind of makes it weird, you know?
Weird.
Yeah, diversity. People do come from all over the world still. And to welcome them in, always. Yeah, always. I think it's relevant because we have a lot of folks coming in from places like California, and it's sometimes I've noticed people are a little protective of our community as new folks come in. But I think it's important to remind, not just in Missoula, but as a country, that that's what makes this place special, is the diversity of people coming in and sharing ideas and opening up perspectives and sharing food and languages, you know?
And supporting refugee programs where we really feel that we can contribute to the world at large by welcoming refugees here. We even had some of their children be on our soccer teams that our kids play with, which is so amazing to have that cultural crossover that doesn't feel like you can find that many places.
Yeah.
It's great.
And in closing, my question for each of you is, for those listening, whether they have lived in Missoula as long as your family has, Sam, or if they're just new to town, what can we do together to help keep Missoula special, to help keep that Missoula community feeling? Like Daniel Kemes said the other day, through all these changes, Missoula has somehow stayed Missoula. But how can we be engaged and play a role in that?
I think it's take part in community events and do things like you just said. It's a bike-friendly town, and there's lots of ways to travel and get around. And so, you know, if you're just driving everywhere in your car and listening to your own music, then you're missing out a little bit. You know, get on your bike, get on your skateboard, get on your scooter, and take part in the things. I mean, every weekend down at Karis Park, there's something happening down there. If you're not going to at least a couple of them, you know, you're missing out, you know?
Yeah, and this town is a super art-focused town, too.
Yeah.
Participating in the art walks, to be a part of the community that is creating the art that's from here or inspired from around here, so you can connect with the artists and connect with your other community members.
Absolutely. We have the nice benefit of living so close to the heart of the city right here, where we're close to the hip strip, we're close to downtown. In fact, our oldest son, you know, Weber, doesn't think he's going to need to drive because he can walk or bike anywhere within minutes and get anywhere in this town, you know. It's nice to be able to do that.
Thank you so much to both of you for sharing tea with me at your dining room table here in the heart of Missoula at your home.
Absolutely welcome to be here. Thank you for sharing this.
For those listening, I'd love it if you could each share a little bit of advice, whether it's advice about cooking or travel or...
Can I tell you a story?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was traveling in Greece and I was at the airport in Athens and I was ready to go to the next step of the journey and came outside with the bags and told the cab driver that I wanted to go to the ferries. And he said, okay, loaded up the bags. And we got in the car, started driving away. And then it kind of seemed like he was just taking his time, right? The meter's ticking and it's hot outside. It's almost 50 degrees Celsius. So it's burning, and he has air conditioning in the car, but he's got his windows down, and he's just yammering out the window at every single place that he stops. And so he's, stops at a traffic light, and he's just driving around downtown Athens, and he's talking, and it's all Greek to me. I don't understand exactly what he's saying. And I don't know, 6, 7, 8 traffic lights, and, I'm just in the back of the car and, listen to this guy, and I glance over, and the car next to me has a gentleman, and he's making this motion for me to roll down my window. So I look over confused, and sure enough, I roll down my window, and the guy looks over and yells at me, and he says, "He wants to know where you're going." Apparently my cab driver only knew one word in English, and that was okay. And so, but he found a way to make it work, right?
Oh my gosh.
Just shake my head at you. That's so funny. Oh, I'm trying to give a piece of advice. That's what?
Or a story, like to kind of close the show.
My advice to my kids every time they're presented with something that's unfamiliar or it looks a little off in texture or something that they're not quite sure about, I say you just need to just try it. Just give it one try. And if you don't like it, then you don't like it, but you really still need to try it. Give us the opportunity to like it. And what ends up happening, what we see with our kids, which really brings a special validation as a parent, is sometimes they do end up liking things that they hadn't liked before.
2 years ago, they wouldn't have eaten it. They tried it, and now it's okay.
Now it's okay. And so more exposure every time you cook a meal that you think your kids aren't going to like. Just keep cooking it because it's good. Yes, someday they'll eventually try it.
And just get out and explore. It forces them to put down their screens, which, every parent right now who's got kids our age is, challenged with. But if you get on their level and you take them out and get them outside, that's the ticket, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, what song would you like to end your show with?
Well, you get to pick one.
No. That's you. He's a jukebox. We used to call him the jukebox. You put a quarter in and he comes in.
Start singing a song.
Do you have a Missoula song since we're talking about Missoula?
Oh, okay. I wasn't ready for this question. Let me think about that for a second.
You're looking to me for inspiration, and I'm not going to see you. You're the one that's the jukebox.
I think of a song that speaks of Missoula. It's an interesting one. So Missoula has this glorious river, the Clark Fork River, which runs right through the heart of it. And during those wonderful summer days, it can sometimes be bumper to bumper, inner tubes, rafts, fly fishermen. Depending on what part of the river, there might be kayakers, there might be surfers. But every time I am on that river, floating down this lazy Clark Fork River and enjoying the mountains and the city that we come through, there's always a song that gets sung in our family. And it's kind of funny, but it's the Wellerman. And I don't know if you're familiar with that song, but I recommend that you learn that song and try singing it yourself when you're floating down the river, because it's a pretty fun one and it's worthwhile. The Wellerman is sung by Nathan Evans, maybe? Yeah. There once was a ship that put to sea. The name of the ship was a Billy o' Tea. The wind blew up her bow, dipped down a blow, my bully boys blow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. You just get the first verse. That's it. You got to find the rest of it yourself.
Hello, my name is Erin Vielbig, and I am the School Programs Coordinator for the Montana Natural History Center. Our mission is to promote and cultivate the appreciation, understanding, and stewardship of nature through education. My naturalist tip of the week is to try to catch snowflakes. You can use dark paper or gloves to study the intricate details of the snowflakes. Winter is one of my favorite times of the year, and I love noticing how complex snowflakes are despite being so small. For more information and to become a member of the Montana Natural History Center, visit montananaturalist.org. That's montananaturalist.org.
That's it for this week's adventure, my friends in Missoula. and around the world. But until next week, please remember, conservation is not a spectator sport. Living in Missoula is a privilege. With privilege comes responsibility. Please get educated and engaged. Speak up on behalf of wildlife and wild places. And if you think you're too small to make a difference, well then you've never spent the night with a mosquito.